Normally I plan videos weeks in advance, but this couldn't wait. I found another leak of the next update for Space Engineers, and it's been right under our noses the entire time. Now, there is many new things for us to discuss in this new image I found, much more than in the ones we looked at last video. But first, I wanted to go over some of the things we missed in the previous leaked images. Many people pointed out in the last video that on these two drones, there appears to be a new armor texture. Now, I can't tell you that I know every single armor texture off the top of my head, but this doesn't look like one I've seen in the game before. And considering enough people pointed it out in the last video, and that we normally get a new armor texture in each DLC, I think it's very likely that this is a new armor texture, so it's something else to look forward to in this new DLC. One of the biggest topics of discussion in my last video was the potential addition of compound blocks. So, if you don't know what compound blocks are, it's the basic idea of being able to place two blocks in the same block space. Let's say, for example, you have the shower block, which has a hollow interior, and you could go in there and place a light inside of it. Now, in the game currently, you can't. However, some people think this might be changing based on the screenshots we've seen, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. One of the examples is in this screenshot here, where it appears this white armor panel here seems to be on the same block as the light below. However, immediately we can see a problem with this. This armor panel should be flush with the ground if it was in the same block space, and you can see along at the bottom here, there is a slight gap. However, the biggest example of this not being on the same block space is if you come over to the right hand side, you'll see that these blocks don't actually line up with the blocks beneath, which indicates that these white blocks are on a separate grid, and that the separate grid is placed on top of the base. Interestingly though, before we move on, you can see the conveyor cap here, which I didn't notice last time. Not that this makes any difference, as we've seen it much clearer in another screenshot, but you can see here how it's being used to cover the conveyor port on this 1x1 cargo container, almost completely covering up the yellow part of it. Speaking of the conveyor cap, a lot, and I mean a lot of people have said this in the comment section, and that's that the catwalk at the bottom here is in the same block space as the conveyor cap and the two metal signs that we've seen here, again fueling the fire that compound blocks are coming in this update. And I'll let you in a little secret, it's not. You can see that this catwalk is upside down, the greatest section of it should be on top, but instead you can see here that this metal bit is above it. The two railings here are also on top of another block that you can see here, so they're also not interfering with the sign that's here, they're in the block in between the two cargo containers. You can actually pretty much replicate this entire setup in game, minus the conveyor caps and the signs. Here you can see I'm using a piston head to emulate where the conveyor cap would be, and I'm using LCDs with a very helpful message, wink wink wink, nudge nudge nudge, as a placeholder for the signs. And you can see here, these catwalks are upside down, so they're actually in the block space below. And here I have the railings, which I've placed on top of a beam block. Now it's worth noting that the beam block is actually thicker than the block that we see in the screenshot. You can see here that the gap between the railings and the edge of the block is roughly the same size as the railings. And there seems to be about an armor panel's width gap on the block behind. So there appears to be some kind of three-sided armor panel block behind. The reason I noticed this, and the reason I bring it up now, is that this appears in the other screenshot that I found for the next update. So I'm definitely thinking that this is another new kind of block that is being added. But as always, we'll have to wait and see. Just to reiterate though, there's no compound blocks coming in this update. These screenshots are just using smart engineering. And speaking of being smart, this is the Steam page for the Space Engineers Ultimate Edition, which is a version of Space Engineers you can buy that includes all of the DLCs. Now, if you look at the banner here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 icons for each of the DLCs. Technically one of them is the deluxe pack, but this counts it as a DLC. And behind we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pictures of each of the DLCs. So, why is this important? Well, our previous link came from the Xbox page of Space Engineers, and if you go back to the Xbox page of Space Engineers, whilst they have removed the images for the new DLC, they forgot to remove this up here, which as you can see has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And additionally, they have another 12 images in the background. And you can see here, this is our Grid AI drone that we saw previously. And I've just noticed this while recording, there's another image down here that also has the 12 icons and another image of the DLC, which this isn't even in the script. This is just another leak I've just found whilst recording this video. So before I get overexcited with this second leak I've just found, let's have a look at this one. So if you open this image in a new tab by right clicking, you'll see that this image is very low resolution. If I zoom in, oh, we can't see anything, just a blurred mess. I'm gonna let you in on a little real life exploit. If you're using Google Chrome, right click on any image and you can search image with Google, brings up this menu over here. You can click find source image, you can click all sizes, and the first link you click will be the highest resolution version of that image. Oh wow, isn't this interesting? This is a high resolution screenshot of our new DLC icon and images of our new DLC. And I'm just going to quickly go back to the Xbox page and grab this image here, as I didn't know this image existed until just now. So, first of all, let's look at the new DLC icon. It's got a gear around the outside of it, and inside it looks to me like some sort of AI brain, I guess. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. We still don't know what the name of this update or this DLC is going to be called, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to be called Grid AI, as that doesn't really mean anything. And also, every time I say it wrong, and it makes it really difficult to record these videos, as I have to keep saying Grid AI, Grid AI, Grid AI over and over, until I get the correct pronunciation. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be called something like Automating the Future or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see. If we zoom in the bottom right of our screenshot, we can see lots, and I mean lots, of new blocks. Starting on the left, we can see the conveyor cap once again. We can see it in both this open and closed state. We still don't know if this is something that is going to actively open and close, or if you can just place an open or closed variant. We'll have to wait and see. Left of it, we can see a small block. The image itself isn't actually high resolution enough to make out what this is, but it's probably a small grid cargo container with conveyor caps on it. To the right of it, we can see the drone from the first leaked screenshot. On a Space Engineers livestream earlier this week, it was revealed that the camera looking block on top of the drone is actually a camera, not a remote control block like I speculated it to be. So that's it, I made an incorrect prediction. My career is over. My apology video will be coming out soon, don't forget to like and subscribe to see that. In the middle of the drone, we can see what I called the conveyor cap in the previous video. Now the reason why I'm saying what I called the conveyor cap is I'm not actually sure this is the conveyor cap anymore. In the Grid AI mining demo we were shown, we could see the conveyor cap in it, and the conveyor cap looks very different to this block here. So either there are two different variants of the conveyor cap, one that looks like this and one that looks like the one in the AI mining demo, or two, this is a completely different block entirely. If it is a different block, I'd imagine it's something AI related, but unfortunately from this screenshot we're not going to learn anything more than that. Although looking at it, there is another block in this screenshot that looks similar to it, so maybe those two blocks are linked. There is what I think is a new block back here, but I have just noticed on the other screenshot I just found that we can see more of this, so I'm going to leave that for now and come back to it. On the right, above the engineer, we can see what appears to be a new air vent, a full block-sized air vent. You can see at the top here that there's a yellow light on it, and on a normal air vent, the yellow light normally indicates that the atmosphere it's in can't be pressurized, and considering this looks to be in space, I guess that would be the case. Below this is a block that I don't recognize, it could be some kind of cosmetic block. To the right of the engineer, we can see two more of those signs that were shown in the last leak screenshots. I'm going to retract what I said previously about the signs being configurable, as it appears that each of the signs has a different shape to them. The three we can see here are completely different shapes and sizes to the two we saw in the last video, so my guess would be that there's just lots of different variants of them. We can see we've got one here that appears to have a warning about falling. The one below it, the image is too low resolution to see what it actually is. And the one over here is a warning about welding. To the right of these two signs, we can see what I theorized were the programmable and timer block variants that are coming in this DLC. And above it, there's another block that looks similar to those two, but it's too low resolution to make out what it actually is. But this definitely looks like another new block that'll be coming in this DLC. Over on the right at the front, we can see what I was mentioning before, where we can see there's a C-shaped armor panel that appears to be embedded in the ground. You can see that this isn't a full block, there's like a lip around the edge. And this is what I was saying appeared in the middle of the two cargo containers on the final screenshot we showed last video. Above that, we can see one of the new passage blocks that was shown in a previous leak. And above that, there's that block I was speculating on in the corridor screenshot that we had no idea what it was. And when I was saying earlier about the block that's on the middle of the drone, I believe these two blocks are linked as they kind of look similar. So I definitely think they're small grid and large grid variants of each other. But what they do, whether they're just cosmetic, I have no idea. Considering it's below the crane arm, I'd assume it has something to do with that, but it could just be something cosmetic. Something interesting to note actually is this crane arm has a rotor, a hinge, and then another hinge. The custom turret controller can only control one hinge and one rotor, or two hinges or two rotors. It cannot control three things. So if this is automated, perhaps by the new block below it, this would have to be something new, as there's currently no way of doing it in the base game. You can do it manually, obviously, you can manually adjust the hinges and stuff, but considering the suspicious placement of this block beneath, I definitely think there's something more going on here. Going over to the other screenshot I just found, we have this block here that I was talking about earlier. Initially, when I could only see half of it, I thought it was a beam block with something behind it, but now I see it here, I just don't know what it's supposed to be. It definitely appears to be some sort of cosmetic block, but what it's supposed to represent, I'm really struggling to figure out. Above it, we have the block that was on the ceiling of the corridor screenshot, the grated block with the light in the middle of it, further proving to all those doubters in the comments that this is a new block. To the right hand side, we have a hover bike. Now, this is a bit auspiciously placed, as I wasn't sure if the bike cockpit was going to be DLC or not, and it appearing in this screenshot would indicate that it possibly is DLC. It should be noted, whilst these two screenshots would be used to advertise the DLC, that doesn't mean everything in them is from the DLC. For example, I'm pretty sure this block on the side of the hoverbike is the event controller, and that definitely won't be part of the DLC. And finally, we can see an engineer and another mysterious block. Once again, I can't see enough of this to know what it is. It looks pretty similar to the conveyor cap as it appears to open and close, but it appears to have some sort of terminal inside of it. It actually looks very similar to the block below the welding arm on the right hand side of the image, and the block on the centre of the drone on the left hand side. So maybe these two blocks can also open up and reveal a terminal inside as well. As I've said many times in this video, we'll have to wait and see. On our recent livestream, they said that the update would be coming out in at least the first 3 months of the year, so hopefully we'll see more of this update soon. Which of the new blocks that I've shown off in these screenshots are you most interested in? Let me know with a comment below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Space Engineers content. As I have to keep saying grid AI, grid AI, grid AI over and over until I get the correct pronounce. God damn it. Until I get the I can't even say correct. Until I get the correct pronunciation.